Hello and welcome to our channel, Cheating Exposed. Today, we're revealing another story. My cancer survivor wife wanted a hall pass to sleep with coworker. My wife and I have been married since 2001 and together since 1999. She is the most intelligent, thoughtful, caring, and loyal person I know, and I have always considered myself fortunate to have met and married her. She is, even today, aesthetically beautiful, and men have often told her this throughout our marriage. She has always turned them down. Earlier this year, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer, stage 1, and underwent a full hysterectomy. I was never overly concerned about the cancer. It was diagnosed early, treated promptly, and she made a full recovery. I took time off work to care for her after the surgery, and everything seemed fine. There were naturally some emotional moments on her part, and though I'm not a very emotional person, we managed them together. After her recovery, she became determined to start living life to the fullest and insisted on a 10-day trip to Europe, followed by a trip to Belize. We also have plans to visit the UK and Spain's Portugal later this year. I was fine with these adventures, enjoying the memories and ticking off items from our bucket list. I understood this new perspective came from her feeling vulnerable after her diagnosis. She also began taking up yoga, swimming, and healthy cooking classes. I fully supported her until last week. Last week, she came home from work and told me she wanted a hall pass, a one-time opportunity to be intimate with someone other than me. She explained that since her cancer diagnosis, her perspective on life had shifted, and she didn't want to feel restricted from doing things she desired. She mentioned that there was a man at her workplace she had always found attractive. He was leaving the company, and she saw this as the perfect chance to be with someone else. She added that I could say no, but if I did, she would feel mad or disappointed with me for an unknown amount of time and view my refusal as a sign of so-called male toxicity and insecurity. I don't consider myself toxic, and if not wanting your wife of over 20 years to be with someone else makes me insecure, then I guess I am insecure. I told her that I appreciated her talking to me about this, but approval gained through coercion is not genuine approval. I also mentioned that I didn't appreciate the way she framed my potential reaction to this enormous issue that could impact the rest of our marriage and lives. The next morning, she apologized for placing such a significant decision solely on my shoulders. However, she then said that to help, she was taking the decision out of my hands. She booked a hotel near where her coworkers were hosting a party send-off for this guy. She told me she planned to spend the night there with him and hoped I would still be here when she returned. She added that she'd answer any questions I might have about the night after it happened, but not before. She refused to tell me who this man is or anything about him, saying, "I know you too well, and you'll dwell and obsess over him." She believed knowing his identity would make things too real for me, which, to her credit, is accurate. Her perspective is that the less I know beforehand, the better. But this contradicts her willingness to answer any questions after the fact. I suspect she knows I won't want to ask anything, or she simply wouldn't tell me even if I did. Part of me thinks, at least she's being honest. She's been through so much since her cancer diagnosis, and maybe I should just let it happen. I certainly can't fully grasp what she experienced, and I can't dismiss how it shaped her mental state and outlook on life. Another part of me feels like I should put my foot down, say this is not going to happen, and deal with the consequences. Her best friend called me callous for even suggesting I wouldn't allow it, saying I have no idea what she's been through. But I find it hard to believe she's truly okay with potentially risking 20+ years of marriage over a man she has no relationship with outside of work. Maybe she's bluffing, assuming I won't throw away our marriage over this. At the same time, perhaps she thinks I believe she won't ruin our relationship for a single encounter. I just don't know what to do. One moment, I empathize with her, and the next, I'm furious. Part of me wants to know, who is this guy? What does he look like? What makes him so compelling to her? Is he just a safe option? Is he married? Does his wife know? And then I ask myself, would I be a callous jerk for saying no? What can I do besides walking away? First update, it has been an exhausting couple of days. I was hoping that my opposition to her plans would make her reconsider, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. I told her I was a hard no and that I wasn't sure how I would feel about her if she went through with it. In response, I got the same remarks: "This is for me. It will be one time. What can I say to help you deal with it? You'll get over it." We were meant to be regardless of the situation. This went on right up until Saturday. On Saturday, she left, supposedly to meet her coworkers, but in reality, to be with the guy. I asked her to text me when she was leaving for the bar, and when she did, I asked her if she was really going through with this. Her response? "I'm not answering any more questions tonight. I'll see you tomorrow." After that, I blocked my wife. Then I did something that could either be considered stupid or brilliant. I went to the bar where the get-together was happening. Well, not the bar itself, but a transit bench across the street. I sat there waiting for a long time, all the while replaying everything that had led up to this moment. I felt like I needed to know who this guy was, maybe to compare myself to him, to figure out what he had that I didn't. The not knowing was driving me crazy. What was so special about him that she would risk our marriage for him? After what felt like an eternity, I saw a woman I recognized from my wife's office leave the bar and get into a cab. Soon after, others started filing out, and eventually, a group came out together. They were hugging a man and shaking his hand. I assumed this was the guy. I didn't see my wife among them, and for a brief moment, I thought maybe she had called it off. I unblocked her on my phone, but there were no messages waiting for me. Everyone said their goodbyes and left. The guy stood outside for a few minutes, and then my wife came out. She looked around, took his hand, and started walking away with him. Out of all the emotions I cycled through, trepidation, sadness, anger, it was disgust that really hit me. This guy was short, fat, and bald. All the things I can't compete with. It was a strange, bitter kind of realization. I felt like a pervert watching from a distance, but I couldn't stop myself. I followed them until they got to the hotel, and then I turned around and went home. The next morning, I woke up and made some changes. I put a lock on the master bedroom door, moved her things to the spare room, and left a note asking her to find other accommodations as quickly as possible. Then I visited a friend who's a lawyer. He gave me solid advice, along with a couple of recommendations for divorce attorneys, and even made introductions. Meanwhile, my wife started calling me repeatedly around 11 a.m. Once I blocked her, the calls went straight to voicemail. I listened to the first few but felt nothing. Just a small sense of satisfaction knowing she couldn't reach me and was clearly getting worried. I didn't plan for an overnight stay, so despite not wanting to, I had to go home that night. I got there around 9 p.m., and following my lawyer friend's advice, I recorded our interaction. As I was halfway up the stairs, she came out of the family room, asking what was going on and if we could talk. She said, "I thought we talked about this." I simply replied, "I'm not interested in discussing this tonight," and went to bed. She tried talking through the door for a while but eventually gave up. Honestly, I felt a little childish for shutting her out like that, but I just couldn't bring myself to look at her. On Monday morning, as I was getting ready for work, she was waiting for me. She asked if we could talk about getting back to normal. I told her, "You've been doing all the talking for both of us this past week. Why don't you continue?" Then I left for work. I have an appointment with the divorce attorneys my friend recommended later this week. Final update. My lawyer wasn't available for a few days, which meant I had to face the uncomfortable reality of living under the same roof as my wife during that time. The thought of going home and having any kind of conversation, especially about our relationship, was unbearable. When I finally did go home, I walked straight into an ambush. Her friends and my mother-in-law were there, waiting for me. Instead of taking a remorseful or understanding approach, they went on the offensive, like some kind of intervention. Her best friend was clearly the ringleader, but they all joined in, throwing out comments like, "She's been through a lot, you don't know what she's been through. It was just a one-time thing. At least she told you, she could have hidden it from you. She'll never see the guy again. And my personal favorite, you're an asshole for what you've been putting her through these last couple of days." I listened to all of it with what I can only describe as a dumbass smirk on my face. When they finally ran out of steam, I calmly asked, "Are you all done now?" Then I turned to my wife and asked if there was anyone else she hadn't told about this yet. That's when I quietly informed the group that I'd be sitting down with their husbands to let them know how they had verbally abused and shamed me, trying to coerce me into staying with a cheater. Their jaws practically hit the floor. I told them to leave and made it clear that since I had no say in her decision to cheat, they had no say in whether I stayed or left. After they left, my soon-to-be ex-wife gave me what I guess was supposed to be an apology. She said she regretted everything that had happened. I looked her in the eye and said, "There's a big difference between regret and remorse. You regret what happened because of the consequences, because your life will never be the same. But remorse? That comes from realizing the pain you caused someone else. And you've shown me over and over that you were wholly and willfully unconcerned about me and what I wanted." She asked if I had any questions and promised to answer them honestly, no matter how difficult or disturbing. I told her I had just one. Why? Not specifically why him, why this unattractive, unfit guy, but why someone else in the first place. She explained that her cancer diagnosis had shaken her to her core. She felt like she was racing toward mortality, and stepping out of that tunnel, her role as a wife, mother, and family caretaker was appealing. She admitted she wanted something that was just for her, an escape. The guy, she said, was someone who had shown interest in her for a long time, someone she knew wouldn't say no, and someone completely opposite to me. I responded bluntly, "If I were going to risk my marriage, the woman would have to be a serious upgrade from you." Then I told her that I'd seen her and the guy coming out of the bar that night, holding hands as they walked toward the hotel. I asked if there was more to their relationship than she was letting on, if this had been going on longer than she claimed. She denied it, but honestly, who knows if that's the truth? I told her that after all our years together, her complete lack of respect for me was astonishing. I finished by saying, I would never be able to look at myself in the mirror again if I condoned this level of disrespect and stayed with you. I said I hoped we could go our separate ways amicably and mentioned my upcoming appointment with a lawyer. I asked her again to find other accommodations. Her response? "I'm not going anywhere. We're not getting a divorce. I'll give you all the time you need and do whatever it takes for you to recover from this. We'll get past it." She even suggested marriage counseling, which I refused outright. Why would I go to counseling? I didn't do anything to warrant needing a therapist's advice. I had her served with divorce papers and gave her a notice to vacate. The house is a premarital asset. She's since moved in with her mom, but she keeps coming by unannounced, offering to help or making desperate suggestions like, "What if we had an open relationship, only on your side, or even tried threesomes?" It's pathetic, honestly. I've made it clear that she needs to call for permission before coming over, and I think she's finally starting to understand that there's no going back. She said she'll drag out the divorce as long as possible, but for now, she's been compliant. The hardest part of all this was telling my daughter about the divorce and why. Hearing her beg me to give her mom another chance broke me in ways I can't describe. But deep down, I know I wouldn't have been afforded the same consideration if I had been the one who cheated. Well, folks, that's all. Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment, and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.